The day my father handed my brother the family business, he told me something I'll never forget. You were never leadership material. Everyone in the office laughed softly. Even my brother smiled. I smiled too, because sitting quietly inside my laptop was the one thing keeping their entire company alive. And by the end of that week they were going to learn exactly what my silence had been worth. My name is Ava Carter. I'm 27 years old. And my father spent most of my life pretending I was temporary. My older brother Lucas was the future of the Carter family. At least according to Dad. Lucas played football. Lucas dated beauty queens. Lucas shook hands confidently at business dinners. Meanwhile, I stayed invisible. I liked computers, numbers, systems, quiet work. Dad used to joke about it in front of guests. Ava would probably rather marry a laptop than a man. Everyone laughed, including Lucas. I laughed too sometimes. It was easier than admitting it hurt. Our family owned Carter Freight Solutions in Colorado, a shipping company my grandfather built from one truck and a rented garage. By the time I graduated college, the company was collapsing internally. Outdated systems, security breaches, lost contracts, employees quitting constantly. Dad begged Lucas to help. Lucas lasted 3 months before getting bored. Then Dad reluctantly asked me, and stupidly, I said yes, for 4 years. I rebuilt that company almost alone. I slept in the office during cyberattacks. I redesigned every client system, created automated shipment tracking, prevented fraud attempts, negotiated with software vendors. I even taught half the employees how to use systems they should have already understood, but nobody saw me, not really. Because while I worked quietly upstairs in server rooms, Lucas played, future CEO, downstairs wearing expensive suits. He gave speeches about vision. I fixed payroll crashes at 2 a.m. He took clients golfing. Dad adored him for it. One night around midnight I overheard Dad talking to an investor. Has natural leadership, he said proudly. Then came the part that stayed with me forever. Ava's smart, sure, but she's not someone people follow. I sat alone in the dark server room hearing every word. That should have been the moment I quit. But family makes fools out of people, especially daughters trying to earn love. Everything changed on a rainy Thursday morning. Dad called every employee into the conference room. Coffee cups, nervous chatter, forced smiles. Lucas sat beside Dad already grinning confidently. I stood quietly near the back wall. Then Dad made the announcement. As of today, Lucas Carter officially becomes CEO of Carter Freight Solutions. Filled the room, polite, awkward, fake. Then Dad looked toward me. Ava will continue handling support operations. Support operations. I almost laughed out loud. I had literally built the infrastructure running the company. Without me their entire system would collapse before lunch, but somehow I was still support. Walked over afterward and squeezed my shoulder. No hard feelings, sis. I forced a smile. Of course not. Then he leaned closer. You're just not built for leadership. Funny thing about humiliation, eventually it stops hurting and starts clarifying things. That night I stayed alone in the office until 1 a.m. Rain hit the windows softly. The entire building was quiet except for server fans humming in the dark. I opened the main admin dashboard. Every system connected through there, client contracts, tracking databases, payroll authorization, logistics routing, security firewalls, everything. My fingerprints were everywhere inside that company, not because I stole control, because nobody else cared enough to understand it. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I finally asked myself something terrifying. What exactly was I still protecting, a company or people who would never value me? That was the moment something inside me changed, quietly, permanently. I didn't destroy anything, I didn't steal money, I simply stopped carrying people determined to overlook me, and the collapse began almost immediately. Monday at 8:12 a.m., the first major system crashed, shipment tracking froze across 3 states. Then payroll servers locked employees out. Then client invoices disappeared. Phones exploded non-stop, employees panicked, managers screamed. Lucas stormed through the office pretending to control things, but panic leaks through arrogance fast. By noon, their largest client threatened to terminate a $7 million contract. Dad called emergency meetings every hour. Meanwhile, I sat calmly at my desk drinking coffee, watching, listening, waiting. Finally, Lucas approached me furious. What the hell is happening? I looked up slowly. Idea. His jaw tightened. Fix it. I shrugged lightly. I thought I was just support staff. That sentence hit him harder than any scream ever could. By Tuesday morning, investors were involved. Dad looked exhausted. Lucas looked terrified. Turns out charisma doesn't restart databases. Dad finally entered my office alone. No yelling this time, just silence. Then quietly he asked, "How much of this company actually depends on you?" I stared at him. You really don't know? That question destroyed him more than anger would have, because for the first time Dad realized something horrifying. The daughter he ignored had been holding their empire together for years. He sat down heavily. You should have told me. I laughed softly. When exactly were you listening? Silence filled the office, heavy silence, the kind families spend years avoiding. Later that evening, Lucas cornered me in the parking garage. Rain echoed through the concrete structure. "You're sabotaging us because you're jealous." I almost smiled. Lucas, exhausted, stared at me confused. "For years I cleaned up your mistakes while you collected praise. That's not true. You got promoted for speeches while I worked 16-hour nights keeping this place alive." His face hardened, then finally he snapped. "Dad trusts me more." It was the real issue, not skill, not leadership, love, or at least the appearance of it. I looked at my brother standing there soaked in rain and suddenly realized something sad. Lucas wasn't evil. He was just raised believing the world would always choose him first. By Friday the board demanded solutions, investors threatened legal action, clients kept leaving. Then Dad finally offered me what I should have had years ago: CEO, the title, the office, the authority, everything. Funny enough, the moment he finally offered it, I no longer wanted it. Because I understood something important too late. Recognition forced through disaster still isn't respect, it's desperation. I looked around the office one last time, the late nights, the panic attacks, the endless need to prove myself, then I shook my head. "No," looked stunned. Lucas looked even worse. "What do you mean no?" "I mean I'm done saving people who never noticed I was drowning too." Then I handed over my company badge and walked away. 6 months later, I launched my own logistics software company from a small downtown office. 3 former Carter clients joined me immediately. Then 5 more, then 10. Turns out people notice competence eventually, even if family never does. Dad calls sometimes now, careful conversations, gentle conversations, like he's trying to rebuild something broken. Lucas still works at Carter Freight, but now he answers to investors instead of family privilege. Last month Dad finally admitted something during dinner. "You were always the strongest one." I smiled politely, but honestly, by then I no longer needed the sentence. That's the funny thing about finally recognizing your worth. Once you truly see it, other people's approval stops controlling your life. Walking away is the first moment you finally stop being invisible.